Not much sleep for me that night. Next morning, I attended at Richmond Barracks and found General Blackadder presiding over the court. I had no idea what to expect, what the formalities would be, what procedures would be in place. Lieutenant Wiley, sir, reporting for duty.
The courts-martial were underway within 3 days of the surrender. Maxwell directed that the accused could not call their own witnesses and would have no one to act in their defence. The brief hearings began with prisoner number 1.
Pierce was the first. I'd never seen him before. He was a schoolmaster, I believe, and looked like a decent chap.
The accused is charged, did an act to wit, to take part in an armed rebellion and in the waging of war against His Majesty the King.
There was a lot of evidence against him, apart from the fact that he'd been OC, the rebels in the GPO. He'd been in close touch with Casement, and the letters were found on him showing this.
Of assisting the enemy. How does the accused plead?
Not guilty.
Let the record show that the prosecution calls Sergeant G. Goodman, Moe Press at Staff Court.
When I'd finished with the evidence against him, I asked him did he wish to make a statement. He said he did. I made a very eloquent speech of what I always call the Robert Emmet type.
I went down on my knees as a child, and I told God that I would work all my life to gain the freedom of Ireland. I have deemed it my duty as an Irishman to fight for the freedom of my country. I admit that I have organised men to fight against Britain. I admit having entered into negotiations with Germany. We have kept our word with her, and as far as I can see, she has done her best to help us.
The striking characteristic of the trial was Pierce, in the course of a statement, actually exaggerated his role in the rising. It, I think, reflects his yearning for sacrifice. I mean, Desmond Ryan said about Pierce that the ideal rising for Pierce would have been one in which there had been just one signatory to the proclamation and one execution after the rising was over.
This is the east wing of Kilmainham Jail, where we know that at least 7 of those who were executed between the 3rd and the 12th of May here were kept on the nights before their execution. I think it's unquestionably the case that Patrick Pearse, of all the 1916 leaders, was the one that had the most strategic sense of the moment. He knew, as he wrote in his last letter, that people would curse them now, but they would praise them later. He seemed to have known that within himself because of that deep historical sense he had of the role of martyrdom in Irish history and of its imaginative power.
Pierce went to his death having set the stage. It now fell to Maxwell to play his part.
The following are the categories for execution. A. Those who signed the proclamation on behalf of the provisional government and were also leaders.
Remember that the British were engaged in the greatest war of their history, and they were faced with a rebellion in which the rebels flaunted disloyalty, referred to gallant allies in Europe as if trailing their coats, as if demanding of the British, shoot us, punish us.
Those who were in command of rebels actually shooting down troops, police, and others.
As military governor, Maxwell had sole responsibility for confirming death sentences. There was no appeal. So it is absolutely Maxwell's decision.
C. Those whose offence was murder.